All right, so today I am going to start making some drum videos because coronavirus has killed the music industry. And it doesn't look like there's going to be gigs for, I don't know, maybe I'll get to play around New Year's, maybe, I don't know. And all I'm doing is sitting at home, getting fat, growing hair. I think I can get my hair cut maybe next week. That'd be good. So, what I'm going to talk about today is speeding up and or slowing down, moving around the sections of the drum set. For me, this happened all the time when I was younger, and yeah, let's just discuss it a little bit. I'm going to start here, play a groove here, move to the ride cymbal. And typically, this is the kind of thing that happens a lot. Could you tell what happened there? It's quiz time. What happened when I was playing the hi-hat and then I moved to the ride? Now, I wasn't trying to exaggerate it. This is what'll happen if I exaggerate it. I wasn't trying to control it either. I was just trying to do it. But this is really exaggerated. That time might have been a little easier to hear. I started speeding up a little bit. Let's see if I go between the hi-hat and the floor tom. Sure if that was too bad. Let me really exaggerate it. I'm doing a terrible way of describing this. Holy. Ugh. So, what happened between that and that? That and that. Quiz time. I slowed down a little bit. Sped up on the ride, slowed down on the floor tom. Hi-hat's the same. Why? Why did that happen? Well, unfortunately with drums, every single thing you hit has a different bounce. And it's something that we don't really talk about. I mean, we do, but we don't. I don't think I've ever seen a video about people talking about the different bounces on drums. So this is my great coronavirus video idea. So, yeah. I mean, our hi-hat, and even, every single thing that you hit, even on the same thing, depending on where you hit it, is going to bounce differently. Like even on the snare, like if you're playing in the middle, it's going to be a little slower than the edge, which will be faster. Like the ride cymbal especially, the ride is such a, if you play on the edge, it'll feel like a sponge. And then if you play on the bell, it'll be like playing on a tabletop. And typically a ride cymbal, not all the time, but typically a ride cymbal is gonna have a quicker stick response than your hi-hats, depending on sort of where your happy medium of your tension of your hi-hats are. Like if I step down really hard on my hi-hats, my stick will bounce pretty fast. So, I say typically moving to the ride cymbal you play faster, but I don't know, it all depends. Everybody's got a different kind of setup, right? So, bell of the ride is a big culprit on drummers speeding up when they go to the choruses because it's a really fast bounce. And I mean, even now, like I'm making this video, how much do I actually think about that? I don't. I mean, I've sort of worked out the muscle memory of like working on the different things and compensating for it, trying to line up with the click and stuff, which is basically how you fix it, right? How you fix it is practicing with a metronome, recording yourself, and listening back, and making sure that you're in time with what you're doing. And you've got to build the muscle memory to be able to do that. So, how would I go about practicing that? So I never really did. I just did a ton of recording and recorded myself live all the time. And I was playing to a click all the time live and just trying to readjust. But if I were going to come up with a method of practicing it, I would probably do this. I would put my metronome on. Then I would not use I have a tempo of 60. I would not do this. Never do this, ever. Playing at 60 beats per minute with a quarter note metronome click sucks. Don't do it. With today's technology, there's no excuse. No excuse! I'm using Frozen Ape tempo. I'm going to put my metronome on eighth notes. And a lot of the times, like if I'm playing a really slow song and it's a 16th note groove, I will put it on 16th notes. But here's it with eighth notes, and my groove will get a lot tighter. Hopefully it will. Hopefully. Blah, 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 blah. put your metronome on, if you're at a slow tempo, 8 notes. If you're at a super fast tempo, like if you're playing at like 165, 8 notes. No point in putting 16th notes on. You'll just blow your head off. I like play the subdivision that you're doing, but that most fits what's going in, you know, predominantly of what you're playing with the song. Never play to a quarter note click, ever. Sucks. It's not necessarily in this day and age. So I put my metronome on 8 notes, and I would just focus when we're working on trying to get the muscle memory and everything worked out for our timing. Just focus on your right hand or your left hand if you're left-handed, and just go back and forth. So I'm just going at, you know, a stock tension on the hi-hat and hitting like, you know, the middle of the ride, right? But if I start playing the sponge part of the ride, like the outside or the bell, it's going to feel different as well. So even just staying, like, let's just stay with the ride by itself and move from the inside to the outside and the inside, trying to play in time with the click. That's a little too much playing there. Anyway, so yeah, trying just go back and forth, feeling it out, trying to get the like your timing solid through all of that. Same thing with the hi-hat, right? Depending on how tight you have it and how loose you have it, your stick bounce is going to be completely different, and it's going to feel different. And just try and really focus on that while playing with your metronome. All right, so yeah, I mean, when I step down, my stick is like boom, like super fast, and when I'm sloshy, I almost have to like change my hand to pull the stick out by itself. I'm relying less on the bounce and more of it just landing, and I pull, and so the timing of it will change as well, depending on how much sponge you have. If you have a lot of sponge, you won't have the stick bounce that you have with like a fast responding ride cymbal or a tight hi-hat or a tight snare drum. You're gonna have to rely a little bit more of pulling the stick back and then firing it again in order to be in time, right? Depending on all the different surfaces that you do. Now, for a lot of people, this might not be a problem, but I know that for me, it was a lot. And it was the kind of thing that bands fight about all the time, and but this is sort of how I would work on it. Same thing with a floor tom. You want to work on, or even just playing a groove on a snare. Like, this feels different than playing on the hi-hat. Or, double sticking on the hi-hat and snare. I mean, usually your left hand's on a snare anyway, so it's not that big a deal. It's mostly the contrast of moving the right hand around that you really feel it. And this, for most people, if you're right-handed, this is your dominant hand. So this is the guy that's gonna lead you to whatever speed you're playing at. So, because if I work out fills or whatever, I work out the sticking, and my right hand is the thing that's leading me around. So whatever this guy is doing, or girl, however you want to look at it, whatever this hand is doing, it is leading, the charge for the timing of it, and the left hand sort of follows. But yeah, even like a double hit, right? If you're playing. Like, if you're sloppy with the hi-hat, then it's going to be less fast than the snare. If you're tight with a hi-hat, it'll be faster than the snare. I would venture to say that most drummers probably adjust the hi-hat so they line up. Probably. And that's why you get that sort of schloopy thing. I've never really thought about that before, but that's probably the case. Anyway, is there anything else I want to say? Same kind of thing on the floor tom. Just move between the hi-hat and the floor tom, the ride and the floor tom. Any kind of the drums. I mean, pretty much anything you hit on the drum set is gonna have a different bounce and feel, and you just gotta, accommodate it, realize it first, and then try and internalize it. Play along with a metronome. If you're playing with a metronome and you want to increase or slow down your speed, do it by 1 BPM increments. Like right now I'm at 60, my next would be 61, my next would be 62, my next would be 63. Don't jump 5 or 10, because that's just gonna wind up, I don't know. If you go slowly and you do it that way, eventually you're going to be a master at all the different tempos, and you're going to build the muscle memory out of it. The other thing is, it's not going to happen overnight, because it's muscle memory, it's coordination. You will only develop that in your sleep, oddly enough. That's why you need to practice slowly. If you practice slowly, your body, when you're at sleep, figures out coordination. If you're working on it at appropriate tempo for your brain to understand, it'll figure it out. But if you're running through the motions and doing everything too quickly, it's not going to be as beneficial. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. I have no idea. I'm just coming up with random topics to do. If you have any topic ideas, let me know, and I will do them, because coronavirus has killed the music industry. And, yeah. Anyway, hopefully that will help. Have fun. Bye-bye.